How to convince Chinese to reduce carbon dioxide emissions. My memory is that in 1975 there was a different combination of gas in the atmosphere than today is shown. There was a partition for carbon dioxide, which is not today. I had only the indirect contact with China because I got panic caused by warnings in the 1990s. When I listened to German-China strategy, I thought German economy is mad when they said, now we invest and later we have 1 billion customers. I found Chinese faces cute and absolutely harmless. This girl wants to do everything right. I wanted to learn a lot more about traditional Chinese medicine. Many concepts are good and based on 4,000 years of experience, which is really incredible. 4,000 years. My experiences in China. Presentation of a computer specialist 1919. Experiences of a German woman studying Chinese language from 1986 until mid of 1990s. TV report about a Chinese mayor, information 1997. German businessman flying to China 2005, exhibition Chinese pottery army, Terracotta army 2005 in Leipzig, report of a Kenian man 2007. Since 2008 I support campaign for Tibet, collecting donations and signs for Tibet. Experiences and rumors since being tortured. But first a joke the Chinese student told me in 1987. The Chinese know more about us than we do about them. At that time world was still in Cold War and Bonn was capital of West Germany. Now the joke. A German wants to travel from Bonn to Beijing and goes to a travel agency in Bonn, Oberdollendorf. It's not that easy is the answer. You have to travel from Dollendorf to Bonn, then to Cologne, then via Berlin and Moscow to Beijing, and you need a ticket for each. The German buys a return ticket in Beijing. I want to go from Beijing to Bonn, Dollendorf. Oberdollendorf oder Unterdollendorf is the answer. And today Dollendorf is in Königswinter. Okay, experiences. Presentation of a computer specialist 1990. 1 year after the massacre at Tiananmen Square in Beijing, in 1989, I found a note on the floor outside of the University of Duisburg with an invitation to a lecture. Dangers from China caused by PCs. My PC was from Japan. This computer specialist said that everyone who has been to China has a Chinese person who is always with them at a guardian in his home country. This Chinese sat in the front row. The night before the massacre, the students threw green bottles out of the window of their dormitory. Ping, from the surname of their Chinese president Deng Xiaoping, meant bottle. There is a wrong photo of this president on Wikipedia and the name is also misspelled today. During the demonstration, tanks rolled over the students and about 80 of them died. This is also different now on Wikipedia. For example, the students wanted freedom of expression like in the West and were on hunger strike. The computer specialists warned that PCs, which have been around since 1986, which means 4 years in Germany, are bringing many dangers from China to the West. This Chinese language... Okay, now, second, experiences of a German woman studying Chinese language from 1986 until mid of 1990s. This Chinese language student spent her long-awaited compulsory stay in Taiwan, not Red China. The Chinese who had fled from China were in Taiwan. Now Taiwan is under attack from China again. Rule number 1. There is exactly one family you can trust in Taiwan. That was the family of a Taiwanese German language student who later also visited Germany. The only problem, she spoke several times about the woman-hating family male cat being fat enough to be eaten. Everyone else is cheating you. But in Taiwan you have one family that you can trust, not in China. Cheating long nose, which means white people, is a sign of success in China and is roughly rated as having scored the winning goal in football. The Chinese regard Africans as monkeys. In Hong Kong there are 3 prices for every product. Inexpensive for Hong Kong Chinese, expensive for Europeans and US Americans, particularly expensive, very expensive for the Japanese because they did not know the prices. With this Chinese language student, a German guy studied there who had already studied in Beijing for 5 years but without a degree. Why? What happened? When he was in his first semester, he took a picture of a harmless and peaceful political demonstration in Beijing. He studied for a total of 5 years and passed all exams very well. When he wanted to pick up his certificate after completing his brilliant degree, it was said that there were no documents and that he would not get anything written because of the photo in the first semester. After this German-Chinese student had previously changed her place of study in Germany after the first semester because standard Chinese Mandarin was only suitable for literary translation, but she wanted to translate for business. She had learned in Taiwan that simplified Chinese is not for business. Instead, she had to study Cantonese or Wu. There are 8 Chinese languages in China, and in the economic zones on the East Coast, one speaks Wu. Wu. Hui, Min, Cantonesian. The Chinese language student spent a semester in Taiwan and came back extremely stressed. She finished her studies and never spoke a word of Chinese again. She swore never to speak one again because of the bad experience and because the Chinese translators are more cheaply. But she may now earn more than a translator. After this Chinese language students report, I saw a report on TV about a Chinese village major. In front of her house was a bicycle that she had stolen, and there was a list in front of her house on which it was written in chalk in large characters who she cheated of how much money. That was, so to speak, an election advertisement. Someone said that a businessman and a Chinese woman set up a business in China for 4 years. It is not a rumor, it is a story I was told. Then the Chinese woman disappeared after deleting all the data. She took over the business herself, and the Chinese said they would rather do business with a Chinese woman than with a German. After a Korean hotel owner told me that his father had been tortured in a Japanese concentration camp during World War II, I researched. The Koreans also attacked China at that time and severely mutilated women, for example. They cutting their breasts. At that time, Chinese were victims. A German businessman from a huge German company told me that when you arrive in China, you will be picked up by your Chinese business partners, accompanied by prostitutes who will then go straight to the hotel with you. If you refuse, they'll suggest alternative prostitutes. You had to refuse strongly, but a colleague who stayed there for several years warned. The Chinese are extremely angry when Chinese women are only briefly mistresses or when they marry Western men because they have money. The Chinese are enemies of these Western men, interested in Chinese women. The Chinese are said to have very strict values, and because of the one-child policy, there were far too few women. Later, I often met an older man by chance who is married to a Chinese woman. Why? The Chinese had manipulated her German husband so that he knew that I was going to be his wife and not a young Chinese woman. But I didn't. In 2005, I visited the exhibition of the Chinese Terracotta Army in Leipzig. When you imagine these dimensions, you get scared, huge fear. In the exhibition, there was a Chinese couple unknown to me, but they knew me. Also in 2005, I received a warning of Scientology infiltration into the world economy and of Chinese power. In 2007, a man from Kenya reported that the government is only investing in airports, but the Chinese are building roads so that cars can drive. However, these roads break down quickly. Everything the Chinese build breaks quickly, he said. Since 2008, I support campaign for Tibet, collecting donations and signs for Tibet. The Dalai Lama had to flee Tibet in 1959 and has been in exile ever since. I haven't recognized him in the photos for about 10 years. It's probably a Chinese person now. When you see the faces of the Tibetan monks who were tortured, what a horror! If you celebrate the Dalai Lama's birthday, you have to go to prison for 8 years, even if you are a child. In 2019, the Tibetans were expelled. Half were brought to China, the others fled to India. The reports that I've been collecting since 2010 have disappeared. I would like to show you some, but it disappeared. Experiences and rumors since being tortured. You know, I am torture survivor and I am not really happy about that, but I am proud of that. You will not imagine what they did. Okay, experiences and rumors about China since being tortured. The Chinese president is married to a singer. That means that he himself belongs to Trump, US Scientology Presbyterian Church. Trump has proposed more dust in the atmosphere to reduce global warming so that the sun's rays heat the earth less, which in fact works. If you write against Nazis, you get extremely bad toothache, but it was once caused by a Chinese woman passing me too. To switch off the first toothache, I wrote 60 to 100 pages of experiences and put them on the internet. In 2018, there was a threat that China and North Korea, China protects North Korea from Trump, wanted to spray poison on the plants across Europe. In 2020, I was told that Chinese people are shedding their enemies. Shedding means putting stones over them. In 2021, a voice said that Chinese leaders only classify people as meat because there are so many. Killing someone in a car accident is cheaper than injuring someone seriously. So the Chinese drive over the victim several times so that the other person is dead. My experience with people who have a value system like the Chinese, changing behavior only when there is an advantage. Back to top. How do you convince the Chinese to reduce carbon dioxide emissions? You could invite the right guests or do the right things. Obama causes extreme heat and drought. France causes storm, Great Britain causes snow, Merkel causes floods, Russia causes rain. The following also causes rain every time. Water my Korea fair. It is like a Christmas tree, which is not allowed in Korea. Visiting my school friend by bike when my mother cleans the windows. How do you convince the Chinese to reduce carbon dioxide emissions? 2018 showed me an Australian man wearing dark red trousers that there are smoke machines with which you can generate smoke artificially in China, Asia. It was about 1 kilometer right and left next to the road I drove, in a small area above the earth. Who does this in China or Asia? Enemies of China, Asia? Chinese hiding cities underneath? These machines must be turned off. In 2015, I saw a graphic on Facebook showing the cutting down of the forest in China, result desert or steppe formation. Forest was partly planted again, for example in Hebei, Henan and Shandong. This area, which seems to have wood, doesn't look good on Google Maps. How do you convince the Chinese to reduce carbon dioxide emissions? The Chinese told me that they conquered Tibet because they needed land and the land in Tibet was unused. Tibet is here, which means it is also desert or steppe. Desertification makes land unusable, so China must take action against desertification and for good land use. If planned accordingly, these actions can also reduce the concentration of carbon dioxide in the air. Do you really have to convince Chinese to reduce carbon dioxide emissions? The Great Green Chinese Wall, officially known as the 3 North Shelter Forest Program, started in 1978 and is planned to be completed around 2050, at which point it will be 4,500 kilometers long. It will protect Beijing region from dust caused by Gobi Desert in Mongolia. This length is not possible in the north of China. Information contradicts, but idea is great. Forest owner get trouble in these difficult times, so please, UN has to support China's plans for Great Green Wall. It means many, many, many trees will be planted. Thank you very much.